Hey everyone, Alex Telander here, and welcome to the Ostium Sagas. Now, if you're enjoying this series and want more right away, I just wanted to mention that you can get them on our Ostium Network Patreon at patreon.com/ostiumpodcast. By becoming a supporter at any level, you'll instantly get access to the next 15 episodes in the series. So that's on our Patreon at patreon.com/ostiumpodcast. Now, I'd just like to thank our 5 most recent patrons for supporting the Ostium Network. Thank you to Death to Komatsu, Darryl Williamson, Descripticon, Virginia Green, and Talon for all your support. We really appreciate it. And now let's get started with the next chapter of the Ostium Sagas. The Ostium Sagas. Saga 2, 1666. Recorder's Endnote, Part 5. I'm sorry. I promise I will get back to the message from Professor Harcourt in the very near future. I just want to address the fact that I'm now in communication with someone from another timeline. From another world, essentially. Also not just any world, but the one where the second Ostium Saga took place. And just when I thought that story was all over and done with, and I'll never get any further answers from it, here we have a primary source actually living in this alternate world. He also happens to be a historian. He also happens to be a history professor. He also happens to be a member of the Conclave. And he also happens to be the keeper of the Ostium Sagas. Also, I'm very much on his good side now, which is fantastic as I have a couple billion questions for him about his world. But I promised we'd get back to the message, so first things first. Although I think we've got the mystery of the 2 copies of the Ostium Sagas sorted out now. He's going to kick himself when he finds out. Okay, shutting up now.
After reading your description of the second Ostium Saga numerous times, I began researching for any sign in the historical sources of Dana Lee or Robert. I can tell you, I dedicated a full 3 days to it, and I will be perfectly honest, there was very little, but there was something. Both Dana and Robert did in fact make it to America, and settled in Boston actually. It appears they both began working in the beginnings of a very small coffee and tea industry there, perhaps hoping to make it grow and become popular, as there were still relatively few drinkers at that point. Alas, their venture did not last long. A few years at best, according to what sources I could find, and then their business closed for good. The last report of Dana and Robert indicates that they were to embark over a journey of adventure west into the continent. And that is all that was ever heard of them in all of the sources I've been able to search through. And I would like to point out, this includes historical sources and anything we have available at the Conclave. And while word and knowledge of the second Ostium Saga is spreading quickly throughout the Conclave, it remains almost sad that we cannot release this information to the rest of the world. Although, I am unsure what would be the gain in knowledge how the fire began. Also, the world cannot know of this Ostium Network. This has been a ground rule of the Conclave since we first discovered the existence of this strange town of Ostium, and this entity known as the Ostium Network. Well, there. I feel I have furnished you with a number of answers and a surfeit of information. Why don't we switch to sports metaphors now? How about some tennis? As they say at the world-renowned Grand Slam tournament, the Oxford Open, the ball is now in your court. Sincerely, Larry Harcourt.
Once again, I talked things over with Zhang. Larry, and I thought we've been chatting long enough now that I feel comfortable calling him that, or at least referring to him by his first name. Don't think I'll call him Larry in the messages, even though he referred to himself as such in this last message. Wouldn't want to accidentally piss him off or anything. Anyway, Larry has given us a lot here, a lot of juicy details we never would have been able to get ourselves. So I'd honestly feel pretty guilty not giving him something just as important back. But this obviously concerns the secrecy of Ostium and the Ostium Network. However, I will be telling someone who seems to value said secrecy just as highly as we do. Also, he's on another timeline, so any potential repercussions, not that there will be any, will be just in his world and not ours. Okay, yes, I know that's not a very nice thing to say, but sometimes you need to look out for number one, right? Only kidding. But Zhang said things would be okay, and honestly, I trust them with most things these days because they're incredibly smart, but with the whole quantum ability and all that. So after this encouraging discussion, I sat down to record my next message for Larry. Nope, it still sounds wrong. Professor Harcourt. To L. Harcourt at marquette.edu from stevechase@hotmail.com. Subject: Confession time. Dear Mr. Harcourt, thank you very much for your recent message. I know you said there was a month in between parts of what you sent me, but it all came through pretty quickly as one long message at my end, so no worries, mate. And after everything you've told me, it seems only fair that I now share some big secrets with you. I'm just going to basically tell it to you as it is, and let you ponder over it all on your own time as I begin going through the third Ostium Saga. To attempt to continue your tennis analogy, I'm going for a breakpoint here. Or is that an ace of serve? Sorry, I don't really understand tennis, other than seeing Wimbledon occasionally on the telly. Oh, and that's what we call your Oxford Open here, since we still have a London, which will make more sense when you hear the rest of my message. Anyway, here goes. Okay, secret number one. I am recording and sending this message to you now from the Ostium Network. Secret number two. I've worked for the Ostium Network for a while now, but everything went topsy-turvy when they sent me through a door for the first time, and it literally took me years to get back to the Ostium Network, where I also managed to find my mum. You see, we started working for the Ostium Network at the same time, and she pretty much thought I was done for when I didn't come back through the Ostium door. So it was a very happy reunion when I finally made it back. Secret number three. The reason I have a copy of the Ostium Sagas, and you do too, is because we exist in different timelines. In mine, London didn't completely burn to the ground in 1666. A good chunk of it survived, and they rebuilt everything else. So our histories and pasts are very different. And final secret. The copy of the Ostium Sagas that I'm reading and recording from was found by another Ostium Network employee when he travelled through a door back in 1756, and he found it in the ruins of this old church in the Pyrenees. Then he hid it in his flat here at the Ostium Network, and I managed to find it in his hiding place. Alright, that's enough sharing for now. So do take your time with it and respond when ready, and I'm going to move on to Ostium Saga number 3. Best regards, Steve Chase.